Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I will call this regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Jasper to order for May 6th, 2025. It is 1:31 p.m. I welcome all of Council, which is assembled here, administrative staff, those in the gallery, including the registered delegation, and those who are either joining us live on our Zoom platform or will watch later on our YouTube channel. Before getting to our agenda, I just wanted to make note that yesterday, May 5th, was a day of awareness for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, LGBTQI plus individuals, and two-spirited people, also known as Red Dress Day. And I want to take this opportunity to thank the organizers for the information and the red dresses that were placed along Patricia Street to raise awareness of this important issue and to keep awareness alive for missing and murdered Indigenous women, girls, and others, and to continually remind us of our continuing obligation with respect to Indigenous peoples. Councillors, you have today's proposed agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or other changes to be made to the agenda? Okay. Councillor Demota.
Just in camera, if I can do a closed session, and we just bump everything, move adjournment to number 11 and closed session the void personal matter.
Thank you, Councillor Demota. Any other proposed alterations to the agenda? I'll take it then that I have received a motion from Councillor Demota to amend today's agenda to substitute a new item 10 being an in-camera discussion of a freedom of information protection of privacy matter, and to renumber adjournment as number 11 on our agenda. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried, and I would ask then for a motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting as amended. Councillor Fougere, thank you for that motion. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And I just realized that I am remiss, so I'll interject here and thank Councillor Melnick for his service over the past 2 months as Deputy Mayor, and welcome Councillor Scott Wilson to those duties for this month and next. Councillors, we have before us 2 sets of minutes for approval today, beginning with the minutes of the regular meeting of April 15th, 2025. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Seeing nothing, I would invite a motion that Council approve the minutes of the April 15, 2025 regular Council meeting as presented. Councillor Keller-Grampy, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Similarly, we have minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of April 22nd, 2025. Are there any errors, omissions, or corrections required to be made to those minutes? Seeing nothing, I would ask for a motion that Council approve the minutes of the April 22nd, 2025 Committee of the Whole meeting as presented. Councillor Melnick, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried, and that gets us through the first 3 items on our agenda. which brings us to delegations. We have one delegation registered to speak to us today. I will invite Mr. Robert Fougere to come to the table in the microphone, and as he is doing that, I will just remind everyone that this is an opportunity afforded to all residents of Jasper to appear before council upon notice to bring up any issue of importance to them. We will, pursuant to our bylaw, allow a presentation of 3 minutes and then questions by councillors for the delegation to the extent that council wishes to ask questions to the delegation. I will, after that exchange with the delegates, if councillors have other questions that they would like to ask to administration, we will proceed in that fashion. We have received some printed material from the delegation in advance of today's meeting. I personally have not had an opportunity to review it, but I imagine the presentation is going to follow along with what we have in hand, and we are limited in our technical capacity to have PowerPoints here. And that's just the reality of the situation. With all of that, I take it that all councillors have the written material, and I will then just turn to Mr. Fougere as the delegation to please proceed. And yes, you have the microphone on.
Okay, thank you for hearing me today. I would like to note I'm appearing as a delegate and in a public hearing as well today. And I'll do my best to be as concise as possible. But both matters are very interconnected, and I've done the math. 3 minutes for a presentation limits me to 20 seconds per slide, so we're going to have to hammer through some information. And I do feel it's necessary to include this breadth of information to close any potential loopholes and to include pictures, just to clear up that. And I would like to start with a thank you to Mayor and Council for serving in what I consider to be the highest level of public service. I've never attended a council meeting before because I trust you guys to be very reasonable, and thank you for your service. Thank you for acting as an independent mediator, as the independent neutral party who can hopefully use the discretion necessary to resolve my situation. And I would like to note this is an escalation which could have been resolved quickly and easily by bylaw fulfilling their duties. So I have split it into my delegation appearance as a permitted by bylaw contravention of a bylaw due to the unfair and unreasonable use of discretion. I'll keep it as relevant as possible. So I am lucky to have a home that survived the wildfire. This request predates the fire. It's been going on since April 2024. My home did survive the fire, and I am lucky to have a detached garage with a Parks Canada required driveway, which I use to park an 18-foot trailer and camper. My back alley neighbor, however, makes use of the alley to park their vehicles, which significantly impedes my ability to access my driveway and safely maneuver an 18-foot trailer in and out. In summary, I require the full width of the alley to do so. Prior to any bylaw involvement, I did attempt to resolve this through the neighborly approach, both by text message and in person. And I've included that text message. My S block winter parking spot expires today. I'm unable to park my trailer in my own driveway when there are vehicles parked behind your house in the alley. It limits my turning radius, making the parking possible but unnecessarily more difficult. Thanks for understanding. And the situation continued. Neighborly approach doesn't really work for me. I work shift work. They're not always home. And it has been, that's the basis for my complaint, is my ability to park my trailers. It's only been addressed by bylaw manager Neil Jones on one occasion when he suggested that I make use of a neighborly agreement, which, as I just stated, doesn't work. And I think it's also worth noting that there's absolutely nothing stopping the residents that are parking in the alley from parking on the street. Whereas I cannot legally park a trailer on the street unless attached to a vehicle. And there's also nothing entitling them to park in the alley. So next page, back in June, as the parking in the alley between Geeky and Balsam escalated to 3 houses in a row, to the point where municipal garbage trucks were brushing our fence. And I collaborated on a request for enforcement with the municipal employee. He submitted the complaint to bylaw, which saved me from sticking my neck out and looking like an unreasonable person. And it was around this time that I became aware that there is a bylaw prohibiting parking in alleys, which is Municipality of Jasper bylaw 244-7.4. Very clear and direct, black and white, parking in alleys within the town shall not be permitted unless otherwise posted, aside from loading and unloading, limited to 5 minutes. So the waste truck driver informed me he did submit the complaint to Neil Jones, who informed him it was resolved. And escalating from that, I also think it's important to note no resident or municipal employee should be subject to retribution, stigma, or social fallout for requesting enforcement of a clearly written bylaw, which maybe foreshadows how this escalates. Alley parking was resolved temporarily. All residents except for one ceased parking in the alley. So I did have to follow up.
Sorry, I'm just gonna interject for a moment. I don't have a stopwatch on, but
Yeah.
I think we've gone over. We can exercise some discretion, and so if it is the will of council, I'm happy to let you continue. Just a bit of encouragement to move along. I see it's a very large,
So you want me to speed up or slow down?
continue but briefly. We'll give you some more time. I appreciate,
We're okay. I'll ask one.
yeah, go ahead.
So I did have to escalate above the municipal employee's request and submit my own request, which I submitted anonymously. And that resulted in eventually the issuance of a written warning, which the director of law enforcement has later claimed to be issued in error. Very contradictory. I considered that to be a fair use of discretion, and it was the expected outcome. Resolution. The car was moved from the alley until mid-October, I believe. And then the parking resumed, at which point I resubmitted my complaint, and it was determined that a car parked in the alley is not parked in contravention to a bylaw stating no parking in an alley. So I attempted to clarify the definition of an alley and the property line, which is defined in the bylaw, a narrow highway intended chiefly to give access to the rear of the building. It's publicly available information on the internet. The alley from fence to fence measures 6.5 meters. The car parked in the alley reduces the width by 1.8 meters to 4.7, a very significant 95% beyond the property line parking in the alley. Still no enforcement on the behalf of bylaw, so I escalated to, I reached out to Parks Canada Land Use and Development, who confirmed that the property line for 304 Balsam is likely aligned with the fence. And they made me aware that they are unable to enforce the bylaw. That's a municipality responsibility. And that compliance officer reached out to bylaw. A meeting was attended by officers Conte and Jones, and the outcome did not change. And they were, to my understanding, instructed not to incorporate that interagency information, and the enforcement criteria did not change, and the car parked in the alley is still considered not parked in the alley. Eventually, I more or less gave up. If you can't beat them, join them. I came home one night. I'm a shift worker. Came home at 2 a.m. to 2 cars parked in the alley. One 95% in the alley, one 100% in the alley. I parked in the alley and received a proactive enforcement from Officer Jackson informing me my truck would be towed if I didn't move it. So that seems like a very biased and unfair enforcement. And I'm not an unreasonable person. I realize there is fair uses of discretion, such as not proactively enforcing a bylaw without a valid complaint, to maybe issue a warning or a verbal warning instead of a ticket, to not provide town-wide blanket enforcement when no valid complaint is requested. I'm fine with all that. but I think it's an absolutely unfair use of discretion to dismiss a request for enforcement of a clearly written bylaw, neglecting to consider the basis of the complaint, which is obstructed access to my driveway and a public right of way. I am a former firefighter and can tell you that it would be much easier to make that right turn if the vehicle was not parked in that alleyway.
I think I have at least doubled the time. Unless you can give us a summation, and I think we just heard it, I think we have your.
I'll give you a 15-second summation. So the car is parked in the alley and there's no changing that. The question is, who holds Neil Jones accountable for his use of discretion? The answer is Mr. Gibbons, who dismissed my complaint stating he agrees with his officers, and I didn't submit a formal complaint. I resubmitted formally, also dismissed, no reply from Bill. He suggested I come here. So my request from council today, I did a 5 minutes of research. Is town council responsible for ensuring bylaws are enforced? And the answer is more or less yes, and bylaw has accepted the responsibility for ensuring that bylaws are enforced by another bylaw, 235, the Code of Conduct for Elected Officials, which states, Section 7.3, a member of town council must not encourage disobedience of any law established by the Parliament of Canada, the Legislature of Alberta, and any bylaw procedure of the municipality in responding to a member of the public as, quote, this undermines public confidence in the municipality and in the rule of law. And that is happening. Right there.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. You could just remain seated for a moment, and I will invite councillors to pose any questions that the council may have. I see no hands. I am going to pose one question, and I just want clarification. I think you said it. You accept that there should be, perhaps needs to be some level of discretion in enforcement, but you are opposed to the exercise of discretion in this particular case. Is that a fair assessment of your argument?
I think discretion is intrinsic in the system and there is fair uses and unfair uses. And I have submitted a valid complaint to a clearly written bylaw. And what I'm requesting today is that direction be provided to administration to enforce that bylaw.
Thank you for that. Again, I'll turn to councillors. Any questions for the delegates? I see no hands, so again, thank you very much for your presentation, and we will hear from you again later in the agenda, and we will come back to that, or at least we may hear from you if you wish to speak. And thank you for the detailed summary that you've provided by way of handout to us. Before we leave the topic, are there any questions that council may have for administration related to this matter? Is there any business arising from what we have just heard? I would look perhaps then for a motion to receive the information from the delegation, or to receive as information the presentation from the delegation. I'm sorry, Councillor Mellon?
Right. Yes, to your request, yes, I'd like to move to receive the information from the delegation for information.
Any debate on that? I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. That information or that presentation is received. Again, don't want to leave the subject unnecessarily quickly. If there are any questions for administration, I would entertain those now. Councillor Demore?
No questions at the moment. You know, I've seen some of the communication. I tried to get as much of it that came in on this, and I appreciate that we have a little bit more detailed understanding of the situation. Yeah, I think it's just, I need to absorb it a little more and assess all the information. So I appreciate the work that's gone into getting this in front of us, and hopefully have a constructive conversation about moving forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demore. Anything else from councillors? Councillor Waxer?
I too appreciate the detailed information. It gives me a good background from which to make a decision.
All right, we are still on agenda item 4, delegations. If there are other members in the gallery who wish to speak to any matter that is already on the agenda, this is the time to do so. And I would invite anyone forward. And I appreciate our last presenter is in a unique situation, having brought something forward to discuss by way of delegation. That can be a discussion of something not on the agenda. Typically, delegations that are not registered are here to speak to matters that are on the agenda. Agenda 6.1 is a matter that was raised by reference earlier, so you have an option, perhaps two options, Mr. Fougere, if you wish to exercise. I would certainly allow you another 3 minutes at this point to speak to a matter on the agenda if you wish, which is the order to remedy. However, we will get to that in due course in any event. And once we hear from administration, if you wish to speak at that time, I think permit that. There has been an invitation extended to you. If you wish to speak to that, you are certainly entitled, and that could happen in the context of agenda item 6.1, but it could happen now as well, whatever you prefer.
Sir, Your Worship, to interject from administration, this is a process that we actually don't go through very often, order to remedy. So we did actually have to go to outside legal counsel to get some advice on how municipalities typically handle this. And under the MGA, residents do have a right to ask for a council review of an order to remedy, which we can speak about. The advice from legal counsel is, though, that if council wishes to give the resident an opportunity to speak to their request, which it sounds like council is inclined to do, that it should be under that agenda item.
I accept that absolutely, and we will allow that to happen. It occurs to me, though, that there might be a built-in duplication because we invite any member of the public at this time to speak to any matter on the agenda. I don't want to deprive anybody of that either. So I hear what you're saying, and I will certainly accede to hearing from Mr. Fougere at that time. And if that's what you prefer, that is fine. Is there anybody else in the gallery who wishes to address council with respect to any matter on today's agenda? No one coming forward. I will say that agenda item 4 has been completed. We will turn to agenda item 5. Correspondence. There is no correspondence on our agenda. I see Mr. Gibbons shaking his head. There is nothing to add. So that takes us now right back to agenda item 6.1, the order to remedy. And just by way of background, this review is conducted under section 547 of the Municipal Government Act, which requires council to consider any request for review of an order to remedy, which had been issued. We do have information, and I will let Mr. Gibbons speak to the matter first with respect to the status of the order to remedy. We have no inherent process with respect to this matter. This is the first time in I think 24 years that we have ever had a review of an order to remedy. So we are following the process set out by legislation, which includes an opportunity or an invitation to the member of the public affected to speak. It's not a hearing in the sense that speaking is required or compelled, but certainly if Mr. Fougere wishes to speak to the matter, he is absolutely entitled to do that. Again, our process is somewhat limited, but we will follow the rules that we have for delegations, so allowing up to 3 minutes to speak. Following all of that, and subject to any questions that council may have, council will deliberate in camera as is required by the legislation, and then we'll return to open session to pass a motion to either confirm, vary, or cancel the order. Again, it's a review, not a hearing. And I will begin then requesting administration through CAO Given to provide us background, which may also be subject to questions. And then I will give Mr. Fougere another opportunity to speak. So Mr. Given, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Your Worship. So I think you've covered most of the process background. The only thing that I would add is that Director Nadon will sort of present the order on behalf of administration. So any sort of questions about the order would be directed to Director Nadon. And then obviously up to council, any questions that you might wish to ask for clarification. And then council can obviously hear from the applicant and ask any questions of the applicant, and then before you sort of close the matter and go into cameras, as the mayor outlined. So Mayor Ireland, I'd pass it over to Director Nadon, who will introduce the order and can speak to the current status of that order, and we'll let the process go from there.
Thank you. See you again. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The order to remedy is attached to the agenda package. And in essence, the order to remedy was issued following a complaint received by the Bylaw Enforcement Service regarding a light that was shining into neighboring properties in such a way that was causing a nuisance. That is an infraction under section 3.2 of the Municipal Nuisance Bylaw, which is number 46. And after attempting to gain compliance, the order to remedy was determined to be the right step to resolve the situation. On the second page of the order to remedy, you will see that within 14 days of the date of the order, the direction was to adjust the direction of the light in such a way that its beam is directed into the property and does not shine on any of the neighboring properties, and followed by the relevant sections of the Municipal Government Act. So that is the documentation that was issued along with a site plan and some accompanying pictures. And the order to remedy has been complied with, is the current status of this file. Thank you.
Is it from administration? Right. Any questions that council may have for administration? Councillor Demota?
Just for clarification on what does it mean when you say the order to remedy has been complied with?
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Demota, that means that the light has been adjusted, or that on page 2 of 6 of the order, the directive that is in there, so to adjust the direction of the light so that it does not shine into neighboring properties, that has been done. So it has been done, and it has been confirmed by our officers as such. So they were able to go on site and observe during nighttime hours to verify that the light was no longer causing a nuisance to the adjacent property, and compliance has been achieved. The light is no longer shining in someone else's property.
Any other questions of administration? If I may ask, and just just for clarity, the nuisance bylaw describes nuisance or defines nuisance as an interference with use or enjoyment of a property. Is the objective evidence of bylaw sufficient to say there is not a nuisance? Or the definition is so subjective that if there is a complaint that something interferes with use and enjoyment, that is quite subjective. You've indicated that bylaw has confirmed that it's not shining. That seems quite objective. Are we satisfied, for example, that there is no longer a subjective complaint?
Thank you, your worship. I think the subjective or objective nature of the matter was assessed through the complaint process. So the information we received from the complainant, as well as pictures documenting what the situation was, allowed our department to provide the objective lens. So to your point, when someone complains, it's a bit subjective because it affects them directly. And so bylaw's role is to try to objectively assess the situation and request information that may help us get there. And I would suggest that objectively, we were able to confirm that there was indeed a nuisance. And then objectively, once it had been remedied, we were also able to go on site and assess for ourselves that objectively it had been resolved. I also think the complainant has indicated that the situation had been resolved as well. So if there was a question about that subjective aspect, it also has been confirmed. And that's why I described the order as having been complied with formally.
Thank you for that. Deputy Mayor Wilson.
I'm interested, was it obvious that the light was intentionally installed to aggravate the neighboring property?
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Wilson, I wouldn't go as far as putting intentions behind any installations or actions taken. But it was certainly shining in areas that were beyond the existing property. Now, what was the motivation behind it? That is not something we would comment on.
In the absence of any other questions for administration, I would turn to Mr. Fougere. And again, you are welcome to speak, and we will be happy to hear, but it is not a hearing and you are in no respect required to present, but you're here, we're here, we're happy to hear from you.
Why is this not considered a public hearing?
It is a review, not a hearing. It is conducted in public. But the legislation requires that we review, not that we conduct a hearing. So a technical issue, but we cannot compel you to come here. We can't call evidence, but we can invite you, which has been done, and we are certainly amenable to hearing from you. But it's different than a court process where you might be compelled.
I don't think it affects what information I plan on presenting anyway, but just curious. Thank you for allowing me the time on the first part of the presentation. This one is shorter. And I would like to take advantage of the opportunity to draw attention that this is happening while my concurrent complaint for a request of a clearly written bylaws has been dismissed as frivolous. And I think it speaks for itself that this is the first time this has been dealt with or utilized in 24 years. I think it speaks for itself that it is targeted, escalated, and biased enforcement, and absolutely unnecessary. And I would also like to extend sincere apologies for CCing Mayor and Council on all these emails. It's been incredibly frustrating, and I would like to state on the record that the councillor who informed me straight up this should not be a council priority was entirely correct. Okay, so moving on. First slide, I've included photos of my light when the order was issued and my neighbor's light. And if I didn't document which was which, I don't think you'd be able to tell the difference. And to follow up on Mayor Ireland's questions, it is a very subjective complaint, and I think it's well beyond the scope of bylaw to escalate to this level. And for those, I've had to do my own learn as I go research. So to sort of give the narrative, Officer Jackson knocked on my door, informed me that my light was considered subjectively too bright. I got a ladder out right away and in front of Officer Jackson pointed it down as far as possible. This isn't a baseball stadium light, it's an off-the-shelf light installed and in line with the National Building Code of Canada, which requires lights for safety. And the issuance, I was never ordered a nuisance ticket. It escalated directly to an order to remedy. And what that means is I lost my right to appeal to a judge and was currently facing a max fine of 1 year in prison, $10,000, all associated enforcement expenses, and nothing could happen without a court injunction still. What purpose does that serve? What purpose does that serve? And is it a valuable use of bylaws resources? I think absolutely not. But I did rectify the issue, giving priority to neighborly relations. My contention is that the lighting complaint is very subjective, targeted, biased, discriminatory, and especially when considered with the concurrent dismissal of an obvious violation of a no parking bylaw. It's beyond the scope, it's excessive, extreme, and generally reserved for matters related to public safety. And I am appearing today because the confirmation of resolution was given by email, which I don't consider formal enough to document effectively. It should be a registered letter in writing. So never served with a nuisance complaint, immediate action taken. I took action on 2 more occasions, shimming the light fixture down, which was never acknowledged as resolving the problem. And the order to remedy I was provided with is dependent on interagency information regarding Parks Canada's, they provided me with a real property report, which would have served to resolve any contentions surrounding the property lines over parking, but it was not incorporated. And Parks Canada was not willing to get involved when I asked if my light was in compliance with the dark sky regulations or not. They considered it, in my opinion, Parks Canada did not want to get involved because they, I think, consider it frivolous and a trivial matter. Like, there's street lights 2 per block. Are you going to consider those too bright? And the National Building Code requires lighting. And I did attempt to submit a request utilizing the same nuisance bylaw with respect to the car parked opposite to my driveway as causing, which affects the enjoyment of my property, the ability to use my driveway. And it was dismissed by Officer Jones because the nuisance bylaw does not directly address parking, but it also makes no mention of lighting. That was an incredible hypocrisy. I submitted a FOIP request for the complaints submitted against me. They're so heavily redacted, I cannot make heads or tails out of them. But I did note that there is a mention that it is submitted at the request of Neil Jones. So again, perhaps some documented evidence that Neil Jones is leading a targeted bias and unfair enforcement while dismissing my concurrent request for the exact same standard of service. So I'll just wrap it up. Cancellation of the order to remedy and direction to the CAO to enforce bylaw 244.7.4 would restore my confidence in council and administration and the rule of law as per bylaw 235.7.3 with personal thanks and appreciation and sincere apologies that this is being presented. And final closing, bylaw should not operate with impunity. They should be held accountable.
Thank you again, Mr. Fougere, and from myself, thank you for your good faith in remediating the problem. So you did, as you said in your written material, act with reason and some expediency to remedy the situation and to come in compliance with the order to remedy. And you attributed some of that to just neighborliness, and that is noted and appreciated. So thank you for that. Thank you for your submissions. Anything from Councillor Demora?
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship, and through you to Ms. Neto, or Director Neto, I apologize. I want to get some idea of the process from beginning to where we are now. The neighbor in question made a nuisance complaint on the light initially. And then could you just walk us through what happened? Did Mr. Fougere, and forgive me if I mispronounce your last name, was he made aware of this, and how was he made aware of it? And then did he comply once he was made aware? So if you could just walk us through the process. I just want to understand how we're here today, like completely on this particular matter.
Yes, Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Demota, our department received a formal complaint regarding the light, and a determination was made that it qualified as a nuisance under our nuisance bylaw. And so our officer attended the property and spoke with the owner and explained the situation and tried to get compliance, as we always do. Compliance before enforcement is how we function. And Mr. Fougere described actions taken, and again, in the subjective versus objective assessment of this situation, the light being on at nighttime, so the officer can objectively document whether there is an infraction taken place or not, is how things were verified. So despite some adjustments, the light was still shining onto neighboring properties. And this, I couldn't tell you the exact time frame. I'd have to go look that up, but over a number of weeks, there were exchanges and attempts at compliance, which ultimately resolved in an order to remedy being issued. And if you look at the nuisance bylaw, you will see that the appeal process for a nuisance is to come to council. The appeal process or review process for an order to remedy is to come to council. In order to come to a conclusion in a timely fashion and to get to the right steps, be in compliance and remove the nuisance that was affecting the neighbors, and in consultation with our lawyers, is why we went straight to order to remedy.
So just to clarify my understanding of the process, again, you know, even for people that might be watching or watching in the future here, to understand what's happening, I'm not questioning whether anybody's done anything right or wrong. I'm just trying to understand the process better. So within the attempts for compliance, you were unable to come to a proper conclusion to have that remedy at the time. Okay, so if I can, through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Fougere, do those details, are they accurate to how you observe things? Or witness them?
Yeah, and I can add to it. Yeah, I shimmed the light fixture down by like 10 degrees, and it was not considered remedied. And they kind of left it up to the complaintee, which I don't think is fair. Sorry, the complainant.
The questions? Deputy Mayor Wilson?
Yeah, not to aggravate the situation, but I do want to ask a question and hope you'll be honest. Did you install the light to unnecessarily escalate and target your neighbor because you did not get the desired outcome from the bylaw department regarding the last agenda item?
No, I did not.
Councillor Demona?
Thank you. I was gonna go there too, just because Councillor Wilson had brought the question up earlier. To me, I want to know more exactly on the process of, what actually happened. So, Mr. Fougere is saying that, bylaw was leaving it up for the neighbor to make the assessment, or what's the actual, situation that made it finally acceptable to is considered being remedied at the moment.
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Demota, the step that needed to take place for compliance to be observed was for the light to be turned on at nighttime when it's dark, and for an officer to attend on site and assess for themselves objectively whether the issue was resolved or not.
And so did the proper measures take place for that before the order to remedy was put in place?
No.
And Mr. Fougere, if I may, through you, your worship, you have a different understanding of how it transpired then?
If my understanding is correct, the proper steps would be to leave the light on, and I did leave the light on.
In the absence of other hands, I just have one question. Mr. Fougere, you, I think, confirmed that you received an email that stated that you were now in compliance after the remedial steps that you took. You received notice from bylaw by way of email that you were compliant. Is that correct?
That's correct, and it's included in the printed material from Officer Jackson.
And one of your requests is that there be a more formal indication of compliance, and I think you suggested by the registered letter, for example.
I would prefer cancellation over just to, I don't plan on changing the light again, but I don't think this should have happened, so I'm leaning towards cancellation, and I don't plan on aggravating or instigating anything further. The light's good, I'm happy, I don't wanna make anyone upset, but it would, I guess. I don't know, I don't want to put too much or something on council, but I think it would confirm that this was an extreme and unnecessary escalation if it was canceled, and I commit and promise to leave it as is.
Thank you for that. Councillor Demota?
Yes, thank you. And again, through you, I don't mean to put Director Dada on the spot. It's just, I'm just going through the process, and I'm just trying to get this evened out in my head. So Mr. Fougere had mentioned that he made a nuisance complaint about the vehicle. And the only reason I'm asking this is because he brought it up and said that he thinks he should be treated the same way with the vehicle as with the light, as far as the nuisance complaint goes. So was there a official nuisance complaint filed with you, particularly with that vehicle that's blocking him from going in and out of his driveway? And did that get followed up on in the same fashion?
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Demota, I just want to highlight the difference between subjective and objective, and what neighbors are doing may or may not impact the neighboring property is a bit subjective, in my opinion. So yes, we received a formal nuisance complaint on the same matter, that is cars parked in the alley. And as was mentioned before, we're working with our lawyers on this file to make sure that we have the correct interpretation and we follow the right processes. And in essence, a nuisance has to arise from the private property. So if the intent is that the car parked in the alleys subjectively is causing a nuisance, that is arising from public lands. So that does not immediately fall into the category of nuisance. Also, if a car was abandoned and in bad condition and leaking oil or doing things, then we might be getting closer to a nuisance. In this circumstance, it is a registered and licensed, insured vehicle that functions and moves. That in itself makes it not a nuisance. So we did our homework, we contacted our lawyers, we had a thorough assessment of the situation, and we dismissed the complaint.
Very good, and I appreciate that, and I just want to say, that if I was in a similar position and didn't have an understanding of all the nuances and stipulations of those laws, I would, in my position, think similarly, like, okay, well, nuisance, but that is clear to me now, and I appreciate that. Now, if I may, through your worship, ask Mr. Fougere another question, just because of this situation, and maybe I wasn't as clear when on the first presentation, but because we're here now and it's similar, and it was brought up, if you don't mind answering this, is the vehicle, your neighbor's vehicle, that's obstructing your ability to go in and out of your driveway with your trailer, blocking or just making it more difficult to go in and out? Blocking completely, or it's just tougher to maneuver?
I think I could still do it with a little bit of, I refer to it as Austin Powers maneuvering, some back and forth. So still possible, but more challenging.
Thank you.
May I ask one follow-up? So if I installed a light on, in the alleyway, it would not be considered a nuisance?
It might not be a nuisance, well, it may not fall under the nuisance bylaw if it's on public property, but I don't know how you could install a light on public property without some sort of transgression of some other bylaw, because it is public property and you can't go put things on public property. So it may not fall within the nuisance is what I think we've heard from Director Nadon, but that doesn't mean it wouldn't run afoul of some other bylaw. If there are no further questions from councillors, the process as outlined in section 547 of the Municipal Government Act requires that we deliberate in camera and then return to open session to deliver a motion to either confirm, vary, or cancel the order to remedy. So if their councillors are satisfied that they have the information they need, I would entertain an order that we move in camera at this point to deliberate. And we can use the adjoining breakout room.
May I ask one question?
We haven't got to the motion, so yes, you may. If there's one question left, and I'll just continue this train of thought so I don't repeat it. We will move in camera to deliberate. I cannot tell the gallery exactly how long that will take, but we will re-emerge in an open session as soon as we have deliberated, make a motion to confirm, vary, or cancel the order, and then return to our agenda. But before we do any of that, Deputy Mayor Wilson, go ahead.
My apologies and thank you for that. Because the two items are so intertwined, with Mr. Fougere still here, was just reviewing the RPR there, and he suggested that there is like a, full-size parking lot as parking stall as provided or as required by Parks Canada. Can you confirm the size of that parking stall? It's a really unique alley, and is what I'm suggesting, which is, and there's encroachments all over the place. And that was was the beauty of this this alley. So, but I'm just looking at that, there really isn't an indicated parking stall on there, or dimensions, so just it would help us if know that you could actually park a 19-foot or 18-foot trailer, without encroaching on the setbacks.
You're speaking about my driveway?
That's correct, yeah.
I don't have my real property report in front of me, but my trailer fits in my driveway. That's, I guess, as far as I can comment right now.
Okay, well, we have it in RPR, but, well, okay, so no confirmation on size of parking stall. Or if it's, 6 meters, which would be the requirement from Parks Canada.
I did not measure my driveway, no, but the trailer fits. May I ask you a question? Are you attempting to prove that I should not be parking my trailer in my driveway?
No, maybe just questioning the difficulty of, whatever size vehicle you drive with an 18-foot trailer backing into a T intersection alley. Yeah, that's gonna be super difficult, even if there isn't, vehicles there. That's really.
Correct, yeah, you're right, thank you.
Director, no?
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, for allowing me to speak. I just want to add that there is a recommendation from administration on the agenda list. And administration's recommendation is that council confirm the order to remedy. And even though it's been complied with, the reason why we're putting forth this recommendation is that should there be an offense in the future, the order is still in force. If you choose to vary or cancel it, enforcement could still take place, but we would go through similar steps as we have already. So I just wanted to, I don't think that was mentioned yet, wanted to be sure that council was aware that there was an administrative recommendation on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. The record does indicate the recommendation from administration. And we have also heard from Mr. Fougere that he promises no changes now that the light is compliant. And I think he indicated that he's happy, which seems to suggest that everybody's happy with the status quo. If there are no further questions, so I would entertain a motion that we move in camera. Councillor Hall, did I?
Yep, I'll do that motion. Motion. to
That is the motion to move in camera. All right. I will call that question. That is, council move in camera at 2:28 PM to deliberate the order to remedy review. All those in favor? That is carried. We will now remove ourselves from this room and leave our gallery. No, they're not plush chairs, but they're chairs of some sort. And we will return as soon as we are able to open session. Thank you all for your patience as council deliberated the review of the order to remedy. We are now back in open session. And we've, Deputy Mayor Wilson, you have a motion for council consideration.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I would make the motion that council confirm the order to remedy and that council direct administration to provide written confirmation that the order had been complied on the date of inspection by registered letter to the leaseholder as soon as practicable.
Thank you for that motion, Deputy Mayor Wilson. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Demota?
Sure. Obviously, we didn't take this lightly and we weren't in and out in a few minutes. So we talked about it at length, and I'm comfortable with the decision that we made. And for me, it's tough because it's everybody's a neighbor in Jasper. We're all in it together, right? So it's for me. At the same time, I support administration and the process that we got here too. And, you know, it's one of those things that I think it's important to keep in place. Thank you.
There's no other discussion. I will call the question. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. And so again, then, two parts, the order to remedy is confirmed and the direction that administration will formally advise the leaseholder of compliance as of whatever date the inspection was made. So he has that assurance that he is in compliance beyond the email that he received. Thank you all for that. Thank you very much, Mr. Fougere. I see you have your hand up. The matter is resolved. I do want to take time to thank you for your personal attendance and your commitment to the process. That is appreciated. As you have heard, the order stands, but we recognize that you would like some clarity as to resolution by way of a registered letter, which we accept as an appropriate request on your behalf. So we have given that direction, and that I think resolves agenda item 6.1, which was before us by way of review today. Given the time that we have expended so far this afternoon, before we move to agenda item 6.2, I would suggest that council might need a brief break. It is now 3 o'clock. I will call a 10-minute recess and we
May I
will.
ask you a 1-minute question, sorry to interrupt?
With, in the absence of objection from council, I might entertain, it is contrary to process, but we can adjust our processes as we see fit. Is there any objection to a question from Mr. Fougere? There is not. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for your kind consideration. I accept the confirmation of the order, but I did have one question regarding my presentation as a delegate. If you could clarify the process, a motion was passed to incorporate the information. When can I expect a motion or resolution that was requested to provide direction to council or to administration to enforce the bylaw?
That will be a matter for council. We received your earlier presentation as information. So we have that. It is recorded that we received that information. It will be contingent now on potentially a motion from a councillor to move forward in some specific way. You heard earlier comments from some councillors that they appreciated the fact that they have fuller information. Today, there is no motion with respect to any further process with respect to that, but that is always now before council for consideration, and any councillor could bring up further direction to administration or a motion to council at any time. It would appear on an agenda probably through notice of motion if that was to happen. So if you pay attention to our processes, you will see if that comes back onto another agenda. All right. Thank you all. I had called a recess and I think we can still fit it in by 3:10. So I will again just indicate that we are in recess until that time. Thank you all for indulging council in the next couple of minutes. We've got ourselves reorganized here. We have lost the services of one councillor for the balance of the meeting due to other commitments, but we are back in session now and ready to proceed with agenda item 6.2, director's report, protective and legislative services, and the RCMP. So I will leave it to Director Ledon and Sergeant Pedasi to figure out who speaks first. If you were both planning to speak, but the floor is yours, Director.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and thank you for acknowledging my special guest on my director's report today. Sergeant Pedasi is here and will come up and speak to updates from the RCMP just after I'm done my report. So you have the report before you on the agenda. I'm happy to report that the residential space renovation at the fire hall is complete. We were ahead of schedule for most of the project, but we did run into some troubleshooting and things with the fire alarm panel. So that took us actually to completion date. So we are on schedule and we are working on getting the appropriate inspections and occupancy before we can resume accommodation for ambulance staff in that suite. We're also working on our after action review and we are very close to having a version that can be reviewed by the Emergency Advisory Committee. So that is the mayor and 2 councillors, which would be our internal review process before we make the document public is our intention. We also very much continue to provide mental health supports and programs for the fire department, but also for our incident management team. And we held 2 sessions in April, which were very well received and assisted us with getting more knowledge and more vocabulary and more tools to discuss mental health in the workplace and ensure we can keep checking in on each other. And in more regular news, the paid parking program as well as the sidewalk seating programs have both resumed for the season effective May 1st. And I'd like to thank CPO Jones, our licensing and enforcement manager, for all his work on that and ensuring a smooth rollout to those programs. From a staffing perspective, we've hired a new bylaw officer. His name is Nathan Drennan. He will be joining us this week. And unfortunately, we are also seeing some movement in that department with CPO Jackson has accepted a new job in a larger community and he'll be leaving us in June. Troy has been part of our team for, I want to say, about 3 years now. He's grew up in Jasper, came to us with some education in law enforcement and took part in the Peace Officer Level 1 program during his employment with us. And he brought professionalism, dedication, and real good knowledge of our community and great people skills to the position. So we're sad to see him go, but support him in his endeavors and his future career. Our full-time term firefighters have been extended. We are losing 2 who took a job in another community, and actually we lost 3 because Nick Kellis was one of them, and Nick has accepted the position of captain of prevention for the fire department. We're very excited to have Nick join us in that capacity. He's been with the fire department since 2018 as a volunteer and continually showing record attendance at calls, but also taken all the courses, and he's very motivated, willing to learn, and we're happy to have him join us in that capacity. The amount of incoming emails, phone calls, communications to bylaw and to legislative services continues to be high. A lot of those are related to recovery coordination or urban design and standards. So we're also making sure we're keeping a close relationship with our colleagues in those departments. And last but not least, under communications and engagement, we've had lots of public events lately and to the point where we've brought back retired Chief Van Tighem to assist us with some of them. So between Chief Conti, myself, and Mr. Van Tighem, we're quite busy speaking about the wildfire and what happened here. And I'm grateful to retired Chief to come back and help us there. He's a great spokesperson for our community and knows a lot about the national park and Fire Smart and all these things. So glad we can engage him in that. We also had a public information session for residents on April 23rd. And we also, that's not in the report, but we also did our joint exercise with Parks Canada, which we do annually. That took place last week. And this week is Emergency Preparedness Week. So you'll see increased messaging and communications on our social media and website. Thanks to our communications manager for all her work on that. And we will also have the annual open house is this Wednesday, May 7th at from 3 to 7 p.m. at the fire hall. And Fire Smart Day is scheduled for May 10th, so this coming Saturday. There are paper bags available at the activity center, so if people want to clean up their yards and take advantage of that service. And there will be pickup by our operations department on Saturday the 10th, so you can put your stuff in the parking lane and they'll come grab your yard waste that is bagged. The details are on our website for that as well. On this note, I would like to invite Sergeant Bedesi to come up and provide an update on behalf of the RCMP.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, CEO, directors, administrative staff, and the viewing gallery. Thank you. Quick update as it pertains to our staffing levels. We had 2 members serving our community. They recently transferred out to Manitoba. 1 member arrived at the end of March. That's Constable John Hollywood. 2 additional members from Jasper identified for transfer. Constable Scott Holden will be leaving us. Congratulations to him. He, through a promotional opportunity, he's relocating to Invermere, BC. Constable Kevin Poulet is identified for transfer in the fall. We have 2 members identified for transfer in. And we anticipate those transfers should happen or occur within the next couple months. The unit priorities for the 25-26 fiscal year, we're going to continue focusing on traffic safety. We've adopted a new priority right now, and that's mental health. So we're going to take steps to promote, present, and address any concerns as it pertains to mental health in the community. Community engagement has always been one of our unit priorities. It's going to continue to be accepted practice for our unit. However, it's not going to be reported on because over the years we've proven that community engagement, we've met this threshold. Some of the trends we've noticed recently, some minor increases in traffic-related calls for service, disharmony in relationships, mental health-related calls for service, leading to missing persons, well-being checks, and apprehensions. We continue to work with our community agencies, victim services, and local healthcare providers to provide overall care to these individuals. Something new to us within the start of 2025, as recent as Sunday last, we've had 2 incidents related to flight from place. The first incident in February where stolen trucks were involved, and the one on Sunday, which is charges are being presented at the moment for approval. The allegations as an impaired driver and the use of the covert tire deflation devices mitigated threats to members of the public in both cases. High speed of driving all over the highway. These are the allegations, and the use of these devices address those concerns. In both instances, all responsible parties were apprehended. Edson Integrated Traffic continues to assist us with highway enforcement, education, patrols. We continue to work with our partner law enforcement agencies, Parks Canada, the Warden Service, CM Police. And our priority is to promote community safety. And last on my list is the introduction of our body-worn cameras. I think I did have a chance to speak to some of the councils recently, but this is our new body-worn camera, and we're getting accustomed to it and being able to use the technology that it offers. So thank you for this opportunity, and that's the end of my presentation.
Thank you, Sergeant Bedesi. Thank you, Director Don, for your presentations. Are there questions from councillors? Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Sergeant Daisy, thank you. For the work that was done for the half marathon. Not just by yourself, but officers on highway patrol who participated and made the event safe, and we welcomed 1,000 or so runners here. It was great to see that event come off without incident. Again, a commitment to the community, which we really appreciate. You had mentioned your priorities, and I think part of the priorities you mentioned were working with agencies, our sheriff departments, I believe, and probably traffic enforcement through the park. And with our new subdivisions, I'll call it, on either end of town, we have a higher density of people at both the entrance and both entrances to the park. I'm hoping that there be continued presence in those areas for traffic enforcement and maintaining the 30 kilometer speed limit, because we're also going to be seeing a lot of outside contractors come in. And I highlight this because during the debris removal, we saw a lot of contractors that bylaw had spoke to who were driving excessively in town. And I think as we move into the busy summer season, that our builders, which we need in town, and our remaining debris will need to be encouraged to observe our traffic bylaws, our traffic bylaw, of course, and also the other highway traffic. I don't know if you have any comments regarding any of those things, but I do have a follow-up afterwards also.
Thank you, Councillor Melnick. Absolutely. I brought this to the attention of discussions that was had prior to the housing being introduced. And so it's a discussion that was based on communities that had to go through this process in the past. And I had discussions with commanders that were in the positions at the time. And it's a trend that will be at the forefront. So we are monitoring, and we will be taking steps to address it in various approaches: education, media releases, and definitely enforcement.
And if I may continue, the officers who are leaving, we'll be missing them, but we do look forward to welcoming the new officers here and opportunities to meet with them and to integrate them into the community as soon as possible. That's great. I do want to also thank you for everything that was done with moving in the interim housing and assistance there as well. I think a huge coordinated effort between a variety of agencies, Parks Canada, RCMP, the Warden Service, our bylaw enforcement, really made that process go very quickly. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Melnick.
And just if I may, the last note, I did attend on the 23rd of April, the presentation that was done in the community, and it was extremely well done, well attended. And I'm hoping perhaps that Director Nadongino are those slides that were presented, will they be available on either a municipal website or a parks website, or did I miss something that they're already there?
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Melnick, you have not missed anything. And your question is timely because we've just reviewed and approved the footage of the event. And so the entire event was filmed and will be posted on our YouTube channel and promoted as part of Emergency Preparedness Week. So not the slides themselves, but anyone who missed the event will be able to watch it online.
Thank you for that, and thank you, Mayor Ireland, for indulging me.
That's always Councillor Melnick. Councillor Kelleher-Renfrey.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I just want to follow up on Councillor Melnick's comments. I'd also like to thank Sergeant Daisy and staff for all the work we've done in our community over the last year. And A special thank you to Mr. Don. I heard so many good comments about your presentation and Chief Conti's presentation. I've had several people stop me on the street and say what a credit you are to our organization. I just want to pass that along. And I do have a question. So I know I brought this up before and I've heard that from JRCC, like there is no real provision coming in for an extra gas station this summer. But I have a lot of concerns about our gas stations, both on Petro-Canada and Shell, especially Petro-Canada, where it's situated right beside Nesters. We're gonna have all the bus traffic going there, anything that's above probably a 20-seater can't get into the Shell station. That corner is always problematic. We're gonna have the rafting companies, we're gonna have the bus companies, we're gonna have the contractors all coming in. And I'm wondering if any thought for how we can increase safety there. The pedestrian crossing there, I worry as people are going left to try to get in to the gas station. And then you have the traffic coming in, turning right. They're all going to be right there. And then you're gonna have the rafting or any of our local buses that know that they come around this way. And they're all gonna come through. And they're all gonna probably come through as everybody's in the grocery store. And I'm wondering if there is some provisions being made to have either a bylaw officer there or somebody there that can kind of direct traffic, especially during July and August, busy season, when we also have tourists coming into town. I'm just worried that somebody is going, some pedestrian or some child is going to get hurt there, or we're going to have people upset and in that area. I'm just wondering if there's any provisions.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Kelleher MP. That is not something that specifically came to mind for me, but we can certainly discuss it. I understand your concern, and specifically with the large vehicles looking to fuel up and the fact that the ones that were more accessible for large vehicles have been destroyed. So I think we could discuss this as part of our traffic advisory committee, and maybe we can work with Sergeant Bedesi as well and sort of as a team come up with potential mitigation strategies there. Thanks for raising that.
I can just add to that, I know a couple of tour companies, they're looking at kind of bringing in a driver throughout the night to try and bus, to gas up their buses so that they don't add to this, but I do worry about this.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland, and thank you, Sergeant Bedesi, for joining us today. I went to Matricia's fireside chat last night, and towards the end, we all shared what we missed about Jasper. And there was sentiment around the group that we miss our neighbors, and one of the attendees is still in one of the homes that's left standing in Cabin Creek, and she spoke to missing the feeling of being safe. And so I'm really happy that you brought up community safety. Safety is front of mind at the detachment. I think as contractors come into town and there's just people that aren't part of our community that are here, I'm calling it the white truck takeover. They're all white. But it made me really happy to hear that that's something that is being talked about at the detachment, because I think there is a bit of a sentiment with some residents that just losing your neighborhood, you're kind of standing alone, you lose your sense of safety, and that definitely is being spoken about. So I really appreciate that you brought that up, and I thank you for that. If I have just one comment and one question for Director Nadon, super happy to see the patios popping up. I think we all are. And my question was about the after action review report. Will be published where? Will it be published? Is that for public? Like, is that going to be just published to be out there in the world?
Mayor Ireland, through to Councillor Hall, yes, we figured a lot of times they're not made public, but then we're government and a lot of what we do is public anyway. So then we would be dealing with requests to make it public. So we figured at the outset, might as well craft it that way. So that is the intention, so it would be available for download on our website. I assume we haven't really determined the strategy there in terms of communication, so we'd be engaging with our team there. And also, I know people are really looking forward to it, and I think what I could say is that we've had a more operational level after action at the fire department level, which is very much tasks, outcomes, where we're at. Like it's very operationally focused, and we prioritize that one because for our firefighters to know that things are happening and that we learned from our experience and we'll do better next time. That was very much a key priority for us. The report I'm discussing that will go to the Emergency Advisory Committee and become public assesses the incident as a whole. So people that were deployed to our incident from other communities received a survey. They came and participated in an in-person session in February, I think, and it represents the response as a whole, which is broader than what just the municipality did. And it also involves those interagency relationships, and it's a really broad look at the incident. And it has several recommendations that some apply directly to the municipality of Jasper and to our emergency plan, for examples, and have real key and like tangible takeaways, but others are to lobby for something or to work with the government, whether it's federal or provincial, on item X. So it's pretty broad in nature, but it is drafted by a third-party emergency management consultant that retains a level of independence and objectivity in assessing our response, and it's also based in those surveys and those engagement sessions, so there's some academic rigor around that process. So I'm trying to manage expectations, I guess, around what may or may not be in that report, and I think once we run it by the Emergency Advisory Committee, we'll have a good sense of, you know, if anything's missing or if any of the messaging needs to be tweaked or things like that. But the recommendations are based on the input from the responders and are treated with that academic rigor is what we were looking for in that process, right? So that's what you can expect there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And I think moving into another summer season and a dry summer season, and with, you know, fires starting to pop up around the province, I think it will be really reassuring for residents to see any kind of report that comes out of last summer. Thank you very much.
Councillor Waxer.
Thank you, Mitt. Thank you, Mayor Ireland, and through you to Director Nadal. I also would like to reiterate the comments from Councillor Melnick and Kelleher MP about your performance at on the 23rd. I couldn't have been more proud to be part of the municipality of Jasper, and I was really very, very impressed by your presentation and that of Chief Conte. So I wanted to say that publicly. And I'd also like to address a question to about the priority of the mental health of the RCMP. I wanted to if you could sort of elaborate a little bit on that. If you're focusing on the well-being of the staff, or increased training in dealing with persons with mental health.
Thank you, Councillor Waxer. On both fronts, both staff, mental health and community. We, as the policing agency in the community, and like any other communities, we're the first point of contact when we're calls for service, or our healthcare providers would reach out to us to address some of the challenges or crisis that some people may be experiencing. And so there are training, quite a few avenues of training that was afforded us as police officers, and also via our resources through the RCMP for personal mental health and members' mental health. It's a priority also. We've been tasked and continue to be tasked to address people coming through our community with various mental illness requirements, and we don't have all the answers, but we take the steps of working with our local agencies to address the demands at the time.
So I had one quick, thank you, Sergeant Daisy. I wondered if I know that some detachments, obviously much larger, would have a social worker on staff. And given the our emergency of July 2024, I wondered if that had been a consideration or if there had been the need for that in any way to provide support to the members in response to mental health concerns.
And that's support to the police officers or
Yeah,
members
yeah,
of the public.
yeah.
Our programs through RCMP, it's front and center as to what resources are available. And through our divisions, healthcare providers, we are provided any requirements through peer-to-peer. We have a system of peer-to-peer services also. And on our info web, it's promoted on how you access these resources. And it's a regular reminder that approaching mental health in this day and age is something that is quite accessible and supported. I mean, and that's what we all look to, because as police officers, frontline police officers, you do see and deal with extraordinary circumstances when we attend some of the calls for services.
Thank you for that.
Councillor DeBona.
Thank you, Worship. Through you, first to Director Neto. I just, being in the forefront, some of the discussions that we had earlier today, I just wanted to say, like, from my position, that I'm very grateful for the commitment that you and our staff have to the safety and the welfare of our community members. It's tough out there for a lot of people. It's tough on the staff, and I think that with the amount of different personalities and heightened energy, everybody's got their different things that they're going through, and people react in different ways. So I commend you and your staff for being strong, and also taking that commitment to making sure that you guys are checking in on each other and having that mental health awareness, and I appreciate that, so thank you. And then shifting over to you, Sergeant Daisy, thank you very much, and welcome news and understanding that your detachment and the RCMP as a whole are taking commitment to personal well-being and being mental health being on the forefront, as well as the community and the visitors that come here that bring on their own issues as well, and then also that commitment to public safety, and it's seen in the community. Much appreciated, so thank you.
Any other questions for Director Vidal or Sergeant Bedesi? If there are not, I will thank you both. I want to reiterate the accolades that have been issued by other councillors, particularly to municipal staff, by Director Didon and Chief Conte at the April 23rd public event. But I hope that there is room also on that podium, where you should all be elevated, to recognize the continuing high level of collaboration with Parks Canada. So Parks Canada was also represented at that evening. Landon Shepherd and I think it was Yukon Bob, I don't know, somebody. But in any event, it underscored that, the sense of a united front going back to the benefits of, unified command from the outset. Continue to ripple through the community, and that level of engagement between agencies was apparent that evening, and I think deeply appreciated by residents who understand that organizations are still working together at that level. So I appreciate the accolades that have been issued, and I just wish to extend those to our partners at Parks Canada, who are also working in collaboration with us for the betterment of the community. If there are no other questions, thank you both very much for the presentations. Might I receive a motion from a councillor that councillor received the report for information? Councillor Waxer, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. That takes us to agenda item 6.3, and after a long wait, we welcome the return of Director Fark to give us a report from the Jasper Recovery Coordination Center.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland, members of council. Happy to be back in Jasper, especially on a beautiful sunny day like today. So just a few quick updates from the JRCC, and including to the numbers that you see here in your report. I believe we are now up to close to 170 households that are currently in houses and assigned, representing almost 400 people in total. We have a small number of units that are still to be assigned. We are working through the final assignments, and we expect to be fully subscribed and assigned by the end of this month. Having said that, we are working on currently 3 additional sites in town where we intend to bring some additional units. And so there will be further offerings. They will take a few months over the summer for us to get those in place. But the intention is to have additional units available for occupancy before the end of the summer. As you drive around town, you will no doubt notice that the vast majority of the debris has been removed. There is only a small handful of properties that remain to be remediated, and we are working with Parks Canada through JRCC to address those few remaining properties and find a pathway forward for them. We are still moving through the confirmatory sampling process. The speed of those samples coming in is starting to increase now, including a cohort of 20 that we received just this week. So things are progressing quicker there. And as you can see, a number of development permits and building permits have now been issued for properties looking at the rebuild. So all in all, we are on schedule, as we had discussed already for a number of months, of debris removal substantially complete before May, and then allowing for a start to the rebuild season starting in May as well. And so that's where we are at now. I'd like to point out the incredible success so far of the Pathfinders program and the extent to which the community has embraced that. We are now at the point where we're oversubscribed. We have more people who are interested than we had originally planned for. And those who have taken the course so far are reporting really fantastic results. First of all, that they themselves feel better equipped and have better tools that they can use in their interactions with community members, but also that there are a large number of people who are actually actively seeking out and taking advantage of that. So we're really pleased with the success of that program and are looking to add additional cohorts and to continue to build that out. We are also working to still secure a funding source for the full duration of the program, but we believe that we are making progress there and hope to have that finalized relatively soon. I'd also like to shout out the great work that our team did on the lunch and learns in economic recovery. So we had close to 100 people attend the lunch and learn programs. We had the opportunity to showcase a number of Jasper small businesses to provide the lunches. And the feedback that we have received from those who attended the lunch and learn programs was very positive, and felt that it was a valuable contribution to their understanding of steps that they can take to help assist in their recovery. That program has now completed. There are some discussions that are ongoing around what the future might look like potentially cooperating with other partners in town to relaunch that program at a later date. But for now, it has run its current course. And then the Commerce Continuity Initiative. We've had the first business open up on Connaught, that is Vicious Cycle, which is great to see. We are progressing the work in the S block to allow for the commercial operators to get started up in there. So working through that progress. And again, we are having very, very successful uptake within the business community to participate in that program. And it is working quite well. And there has been quite some work from our communications team on a number of initiatives, including sensitizing the neighborhoods where additional housing will be brought in, and working on the temporary use of public spaces information that we are trying to get out to folks. So all in all, the last 6 weeks, while I have been away, and the last few weeks in particular have been quite busy and quite successful for the JRCC. And most importantly, I'd really like to thank Andy Asarte, who stepped in to support during my absence, and the rest of the team who did phenomenal work to continue to advance the important work during that period of time. I am happy to answer any questions that you have to the best of my ability.
Thank you, Director Fark. Questions from councillors? Councillor Keller, MP.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. Welcome back, Director Burke. On the demolition, the 1% of the properties left, the pathway forward, can you give a description? Are you going to work with the insurers, or how are these? Because, you know, I've heard that some of them are tied up because one side of the duplex is insured and they're ready to go, but the other side can move forward. So can you give us an outline of the pathway of how that may roll out?
Certainly. So for the vast majority of cases, the issue remains that they are working through their insurance company to finalize their claims. And in some cases, the claims are disputed. And so that is a challenging process for the leaseholders to have to work through. The approach that we're taking remains to be one of trying to assist them and facilitate to allow them to move forward with debris removal, rather than taking a more heavy-handed compliance approach. We are exploring the option for compliance for the small number of properties for whom a facilitated resolution may be more difficult to achieve. And we may eventually come back to council with further details on that. But for the time being, it's very much a case management approach where we're working with each individual leaseholder to try to find the way forward where we can assist them to successfully remediate their property.
Thank you.
Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland, and through you to Dr. Park. Welcome back. Over the past few weeks, I've received dozens and dozens of emails from residents, Canadians, asking for an inclusive recovery process by expanding the working groups. Those are like social recovery, economic recovery, housing, debris removal, to include a truth and reconciliation, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls 2S+ working group comprised of Indigenous leaders and community leaders. I'm just wondering if you can speak to Indigenous input in recovery.
Certainly. So to date, there have been 2 substantive engagements with the Indigenous partners. We did an initial engagement in Hinton. That was, I believe it was in October, early on in the recovery process, as part of the standard program that Parks Canada implements. And then as we were developing the attempts to develop a recovery plan, we engaged with Indigenous partners right here in this room here in Jasper. So those have been the 2 formal processes that have been undertaken so far. There are ongoing discussions around what further steps can be taken. Obviously, they have to be taken in conjunction with Parks Canada, who have the regulatory requirement for Indigenous relations. So that is an ongoing discussion, and we will try to come back to council at some future date when we have additional details to provide. I don't have further details at this time.
I appreciate that answer, and it's hard for me to ignore, 50+ emails in my inbox, and I definitely wanted to bring it up today because I do personally think it's important as well. Thank you.
Councillor DeVota.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure if everybody else did, but for me, the theme song from Welcome Back, Cotter, popped in my head when I saw Mr. Park here. So I'm happy to have you back in our community. I would have been happy in either way, in either capacity. So congratulations for being out there and putting your name out there, and grateful to have you back. The question I have now, some community members have been asking about the soil testing process. Now, is this mandatory for every leaseholder who's lost their property to have their soil tested before and after, even if it was tested clear of any contaminants initially, and then after their property's been cleared, is it a necessity to have it tested again?
So, my recollection is that post-removal confirmatory sampling is a permit condition for all demolitions. And the reason for that is because of the risk of cross-contamination and things to have been dug up or disturbed as a result of the removal process. Yes, so that is my recollection. I can confirm that with Parks Canada though, and get back to you because I don't recall any scenarios where it's not part of the permit condition, but I can confirm.
Okay, and could you repeat the term that's used, post-confirmatory?
Yeah, post-removal confirmatory sampling.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Other questions? Councillor Bellin?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, I just want to add the comment about the diligent work that's been done by the JRCC in coordination with Parks Canada, where we're starting to see residents able to put trailers onto their vacant lots. And I think that helps tremendously with alleviating housing pressures here in the community. And I think shows a real commitment by the partners in the JRCC to move our rebuild and ability to service our guests and our residents by taking every available opportunity and maximizing the space that we have available. And I think that needs to be recognized that was I think a bold move by the partners and Parks Canada and any municipality to be able to facilitate that. So thank you for all the efforts. Thank you.
There are no other questions. I had one just related to Councillor Melnick's observations. With respect to the use of private leaseholds, including use of RVs, are there any restrictions on who can find accommodation in those RVs? I take it it's not for a substitute PHA, but apart from that, it could be an owner, it could be another person, a resident of Jasper, or it could be a contractor.
That is correct. So the need to reside remains a condition for these properties, and the leaseholder must themselves go through the process of securing the permit and positioning a unit on the property. After that, as with any other residential unit, they could elect to house somebody else from the community in that unit.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And just one other comment or observation, following from Councillor Hall's comments regarding Indigenous engagement. And I just put it out there that reading through today's update, you have indicated that the JRCC is working with partners to plan additional community wellness programming, including a land-based healing through fire program. And it just seems like that might be a logical place and an important place to engage an Indigenous component, particularly because it's not just healing for us or our residents, but it is an opportunity potentially to heal longstanding relationship issues.
So for that particular program, that is certainly the intent, and that is how the program, that component is being designed and intended to be rolled out. I believe that the request that Councillor Hall is reference to is asking for a broader and more substantive community engagement on all aspects of recovery. So although you're correct, that is absolutely a component and an opportunity that we are working on.
Thank you for that. If there are no further questions for Director Park, I would look for a motion to receive his report for information. Councillor Hall, thank you for that. All those in favor? There are none opposed, that is carried, and then thank you, Director Fark, and welcome back, and thank you for your efforts over the last 6 weeks as well. That takes us to agenda item 6.4, capital budget carry forward to 2025. This matter comes before us by way of recommendation from committee of the whole to approve the carry forward that we looked at the last committee of the whole meeting, which is now 2 weeks ago, at least. If there are no further questions for administration about the content of that, I would look for a motion that council approve the carry forward capital list of incomplete 2024 projects to the 2025 capital budget as presented. Councillor Waxer. I guess I could continue it. I don't think anybody will call for separation, and that council add the completion of the site servicing for interim housing to the budget as presented. So both of those matters in the motion. Is there any debate? All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried. Thank you, Director Novichok, for your patience. Wait all afternoon for us to get to that. Appreciate it. That takes us to agenda item 7, notices of motion, which there are none, and no one requested that anything be added at the opening of the meeting. So I think we can turn to agenda item 8, councillors' reports. We would welcome reports from any councillors of what they may have been up to on our behalf in the last couple of weeks. Councillor Keller.
Thank you, Mayor Ireland. I've had a couple of evergreen meetings in the past couple of weeks, and I completed the Pathfinders course in the last 2 weeks.
Thank you for that. Other reports? Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much, Mayor Ireland. Yesterday, Councillor Melnick, Councillor Waxer, and myself attended a recovery advisory committee meeting, which I felt to be quite positive, and yeah, that's all for me.
Thank you. Councillor Waxer.
I will be attending tomorrow 2 different community conversations.
Councillor Melnick.
Thank you, Your Worship. As I mentioned earlier, on the 23rd of April, I did attend a fire preparedness session. But prior to that, I also attended NEPMA, I believe, as did Councillor Waxer. The following day, Councillor DeBoter and myself attended Community Futures West Yellowhead monthly board meeting in Hinton. To round out the end of the month, I was able to see you speak at the seniors dinner on April 30th at the Activity Center. And then we had an opportunity, a number of council members were able to attend a meeting with ATCO regarding their plans to upgrade, and they updated their plans on how they're reinforcing the electrical delivery, not only in Jasper, but also throughout the province, and hardening their system. And to round out last week, it was good to see our ice maker retire, Mr. Pete Bridge, and sad to see him leave the community, but I think he left us in good hands with our staff that are currently looking after our arena.
Thank you, Councillor Melnick. Just following on that and briefly, with Councillor Melnick, as he said, I spoke at the seniors dinner on April 30th. May 2nd was a particularly busy day in town. I spoke to a group, I think they're called the Jasper Ladies Amazing Race or something like that. A group who all have a connection to Jasper, although they may not live here now. But they congregate in Jasper annually and have little adventures. But this year, the focus was entirely on how they could contribute to our economic recovery. And so I was happy to speak to them about how that can happen. As Councillor Melnick indicated, the retirement party for Peter Bridge, our most long-standing municipal employee, as of the date of his retirement, 32 plus years, I think. So excellent to see the turnout for that. That same evening, I attended and spoke at a barbecue hosted by ATCO and put together with the Oilers Entertainment Group and the Oil Kings. And with the assistance of ATCO, they brought an event to Jasper for local and regional kids to get training from people, including former Oiler players, NHL quality stuff. And it was free to local kids, sponsored by ATCO, and really well attended and went over exceptionally well, very well received by families in Jasper. Last evening, I attended the Jasper Community Team Society meeting. They are still intent on attending council to give us an update on what's happening there. I think now that will be probably after their annual general meeting, which is later this month, May 21st. And I spoke this morning by way of invitation to the NATE Student Association leadership. It turns out that NATE has been bringing their newly elected student governance group to Jasper for over 18 years. And we're more enthused than ever to come here to help with our recovery. So I had an opportunity to speak with young people now in that educational venue, but obviously with an interest in leadership and governance. So a welcome opportunity. And that is it for my report. If there are no further reports, Councillor Hall?
Nope.
You're good?
Yep.
All right, that takes us to agenda item 9, upcoming events. We are in the midst of Emergency Preparedness Week. Tomorrow, be prepared for your Alberta Emergency Alert test to go off. Well, I will say mine has been going off quite regularly with fires across the province in the last several days. There is another emergency preparedness open house tomorrow at the Emergency Services Building. Fire Smart Day is on May 10th. Next week, Wednesday, is the general meeting of the Jasper Chamber of Commerce. I understand that Senator Sorensen is speaking at that, which will be of interest all in itself. The Alberta Japan Twin Municipalities Conference is in Stony Plain this year, and I think that I have seen Councillor Melnick indicate that he will be available to attend that. The Evergreens Foundation 65th anniversary party is scheduled for May 24th at the Alpine Summit Seniors Lodge, and of course the FCM annual conference in Ottawa at the very end of the month. Added to that, I would remind everybody that there is an opening for the men's shed this Saturday, May 10th at I think 2 o'clock at the site of the men's shed behind the arena. And I will repeat the annual general meeting of the Jasper Community Team Society will be held, I believe, in this room on May 21st, beginning at 5 o'clock. So if you're interested in becoming a member of the Jasper Community Team Society and electing the board, you might want to come up to the AGM on May 21st. Are there any other upcoming events? There appear to be. Councillor Waxer.
I just thought we should remember that it's also the Uplift Festival right now, and they're having their special event on Saturday evening as well.
Thank you for that. Councillor Hall.
Thank you very much. That's also what I wanted to speak to, and also tomorrow night, from 4 till 10, they are having a street party behind the Whistlers Inn to celebrate that, art, that's gone up there.
Thank you for that, and Councillor Calabranti.
On May 23rd, in Edmonton will be the Times Canada Ahead Highway EGM.
Thank you for that. Lots of activity in our recovering community. All right, if there is nothing else, we amended our agenda to include an in-camera session. Before I call that, I will just confirm with Councillor Demotta, there will be no action anticipated coming out of that. So before I call for us to move in camera for a second time in this meeting, I will just let the gallery know and those watching on our Zoom platform that we will move in camera very shortly, and when we come out, it will simply be for the purposes of adjournment. So our business for today is effectively concluded, and I thank those who remained in the gallery throughout, and for those who watched the proceedings on Zoom throughout. Thank you all, and I will now entertain a motion to move in camera at 4:09 PM. Councillor Demotta, thank you. All those in favor? There are none opposed. That is carried, and we are now moving in camera.